you everyone for joining us today. On behalf of Interior Health, we would like to recognize and acknowledge the traditional territory of the Silk Nation, where we live, learn, collaborate, and work together. My name is Kim Peek, and welcome to IH Research Week 2018. Presentation is Improving Access, Exploring Youth Perception through Visual Art in Health Programming and Service Planning in Kamloops, and presented by Shannon Dispios and Dr. Bonnie Fournier. Take it away, Shannon and Bonnie.
And thanks everyone for coming, and thanks for all of you online joining us today. And so Shannon and I are going to speak about the research that we did with youth here in Kamloops, and just really exploring their perceptions around what they see their health and social needs are, and how we can meet them here in Kamloops. So for the next 40 minutes or so, this is our overview. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are, what we're about, give you some background on the process of inquiry. We're going to have a little activity. If you do have paper, that would be great. If you don't, you can do it in your head. We're going to talk about some of the key themes that came out of our research. We have a little case study example to really highlight some of the challenges for youth in Kamloops, and just linking to the Kamloops and BC context, so some implications and recommendations, next steps. And we're going to open it up for questions and commentary, and a few guiding questions at the end as well, in case nobody has any questions. We will help to prompt you. So who we are. So myself, I'm a mental health nurse. I've worked in Kamloops in health, doing a lot of crisis response, and then went back to school and did my PhD. And I was actually a troubled youth growing up, so I was one of those rebellious youth. I tried to commit suicide when I was younger, ended up here in the hospital for a short time. I ran away from home, going to school, skipped school. I was quite a troubled youth. And then in grade 11, 12, assigned me to a course for the troubled youth in school. And a really great relationship with the teacher. And it was a really positive experience for me. And we started to look at psychology and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and looking at who we are. And just the impact of having a really positive role model in my life really impacted me and changed my life around. And then I was on the roll after that. And I always say to my nursing students now that I teach at TRU and the nursing faculty is, if I can do it, and I'm a troubled youth and go on and do my PhD, there's hope for all the other youth that sometimes we look at and perhaps think have such a troubled background that there's no hope for them, that there is. So I try to use myself as an example. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm just going to turn it over to Shannon.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon DBN. I'm a counseling and social work practitioner. In BC, I've worked in Victoria for a while, so like 10 years. I've been working with youth, community schools, street and trans youth, transitional housing. Then I came to Kamloops to get a master's degree. I started working with PEACE program, which is prevention, education, advocacy, counseling, empowerment for youth and their families who have witnessed or experienced violence. I worked with youth and issues through the Phoenix Center here. I started on the youth cooperative and got hooked up with Bonnie, who had a similar interest as me, which is improving services for youth, getting them to engage with services and improving the accessibility of services. Like Bonnie, when I was a kid, I came from like a low socioeconomic status. Parents were poor, addiction issues, violence issues. I really had adult mentors in my life who guided me and told me that you can do whatever you want. Like, you don't have to have the same life cycle as your parents. Like, look for opportunities, or give you growth opportunities. Like, you're important, you're special. And so that's been my aim with my youth work, is really like meet where they're at, making them believe themselves, and improving opportunities for them in their community. So it's really close to home for me. at the very beginning of this research for me when I started my capstone project, which is sort of like a research paper to finish my master's degree. I always keep these in my forefront, that my work is about valuing and empowering marginalized voices, at-risk youth voice. I'm at-risk youth, so that's really important to me. Illuminating youth perspectives on community counseling, outreach, and holistic health services, making sure that the services we're providing are the services they want and they're delivered they want, so that they are advocating for allying with youth clients. It's about the youth for me. Building and being responsive to clients, improving holistic health services for youth in Canada and BC. That's also a big piece for me is service development, service plan program development, because kids do need opportunities. And it comes from top down. That comes from policy, that comes from funding, that comes from people doing research and saying, hey, this is an important issue. Let's develop programming to meet this need. Strength-based. I always hype the strengths of each youth, make them feel important, what their magnificence is, really letting them see that.
So and acknowledge our community partners. So obviously the Kamloops Youth that we worked with couldn't be here, so we want to acknowledge our participants. Sean Lewis for the Phoenix Center was one of our partners through the TRU Community Driven Research Fund. The Youth Health Hub Working Collaborative, which I'll talk about in it. Wendy Grunberg, who's the Peace Program Coordinator at the YMCA. Of course, the Boys and Girls Clubs have also been key partners. So a little bit of background before we start. In Kamloops, there's approximately 20% of the population are youth, 12 to 24 years is the age bracket we're working with. And that greater than 12,000 youth visits to Royal Emergency Department any given year. And there's usually more females than males. And acuity on the CTAS scale, so that's the Emergency Department Triage Rating Scale, is usually a level 3 or 4. And so a 3, a youth comes in with kind of mental health issue and they're rating their mood. They'd have moderate anxiety or agitation. And if they had a 4, they would have mild anxiety. So the higher the number, the less. And if a youth came with suicidal ideation and no plan, that would be a 3. And if they were just depressed with no suicidal ideation, that would be a 4. So they're coming in. The reasons, orthopedic was 22%, GI was 14%, skin 12%, mouth, nose, throat 8%, and mental health and substance use 1.5%. You can see, looking at reasons, unless you have a broken bone, some of these youth could probably go to a family physician. And come to the emergency department for some of these other issues. So really here in Kamloops, there was this recognition of a need for an integrated one-stop place for youth to come, where they could see a family physician, they could see a counselor, a mental health person who specialized in addictions, where youth-friendly services, so whatever that means to them. That a one-stop place would make it really easier for them to actually find the help and support, so they wouldn't have to be off to all these different service agencies in Kamloops and trying to figure out what door is the right door to go through, and to make sure that it's youth and family aged, so that they're involved in the design, development, and of course governance of a youth health hub. So that's really what we've been working on, and this is how I got involved. Was nursing students were working on a project, and the Boys and Girls Club asked them to go out and interview youth and outreach workers. They were starting to talk about how do we get a youth health hub here in Kamloops, because there was funding. There was a call out in 2016 for funding, and in that call, Kamloops put a proposal and wasn't successful. Unfortunately, Kelowna was a recipient and also just recently Continue has been. There are 8, they call them foundry centers in BC, and basically it's just what I described. It's bringing all of these health and social services under one roof, and they really try to base it on local needs. So what is happening in Kelowna could be completely different than what's happening in Abbotsford, depending on the youth. So our question for the research and with the nursing students as well is what do Kamloops Youth find important to include in a centralized community health service provision or a youth health hub, and then why do they think it's important? And so as you can see, we use the art a way to explore that along with discussion. So there are 3 aspects to our research. There was the capstone project that Shannon talked about, which really helped to inform the literature review around barriers for youth accessing mental health services. The nursing students helped in interviews at-risk youth and also youth outreach workers to inform them or to ask them to inform the research questions. And the work that Shannon and I did with the youth using art, and so we used focus groups with the youth. Not great slide. Okay, so this is just we had 3 kind of different focus groups using the arts-based research, and the first one was with 4 females and 1 male aged 13 to 16, and it was a discussion and art session all together in one focus group. The second focus group was more just a discussion during the research question, and the third focus group was just an art session. They explored the research question. Over to Shannon.
Okay, so like Bonnie said, I started a capstone project, my master's degree, that led me to figure out like what's important to me. Youth are important to me. Youth are important to me. What's like for mental health services out there? Like what's their perspective? And I found it was really difficult to find their perspective. It was service providers who were speaking on behalf of youth. It wasn't any BC youth who gave their perspectives or local Kamloops youth. I was like, I want that voice because those are going to be clients. So I set out into research, and I'm like, what fine, this is all North American data, and I found that the Continuum was autonomy, and the parents were actually a huge barrier to youth accessing. They didn't want parents to know about what their parenting issues were, and they weren't going to access if their parents found out. So confidentiality actually meant for them was privacy from parents and privacy from peers. So we're concerned about stigma and perception of others, being judged. That's a big deterrent from them accessing services. Barriers were feeling important, unimportant was key. The accessibility, so like hours, transportation, fees, knowledge of is a really big one. They don't know what's available to them. They have no idea how you can go about finding it. And then it's sparsely everywhere. They're not driving, they don't have a lot of money, right? So they don't access the services. Also, a lot of them don't have ID on them. Their parents hold, and where young parents are very rare. Also, connection with support staff, whether it's medical health or mental health or social services, they have like a rapport and a trust. They need to feel like it was real talk with a real person and not professional, or else they shut down because they felt like they were going to get assessed, going to get diagnosed, they were going to get committed. It would be gentle to them instead of positive in their life. Respect, trust, and safety. That's what we really need for a relationship, for them to open up and self-disclose and seek out services. And then they talked about what they wanted, what they needed, which was crisis response, outreach. They want work to go to them because they don't know how to get to the workers. They don't know how to get to the health services. They want them to come to them like easily accessible. They talked about doing things like having a school presentation would be a good to inform all of the youth in the school. And they want relevant services for individual life context. They have to be seen for the whole self. So like you go in and it's like you have a broken bone. It's like, well, what else happened during, or you're presenting an issue, and it's like, well, what are all of the factors in your life, social, emotional, intellectual, physical, that are building into that, that's created the issue. They don't want to be band-aided. They want their whole self to be looked at. And opportunities for personal growth and development, employment, education, that kind of thing. So we look at these things that came up in our studies that I didn't see in my literature review were that youth care deeply about issues facing fellow youth. They worried about homelessness. They were about LGBTQS. They were about immigration and multiculturalism. They wanted to know that there are other youth who maybe abandoned, neglected, whatever, that they were being responded to. They're there, and they want to be a part of that in the community. They want community involvement to reach out to other youth. They want to market the center directly themselves to other youth, because it'll be more youth-friendly, and it'll express the youth culture, youth language. It'll be neutral, fun. It won't be like, you're a problem youth. You need this problem youth program, right? That's what they're worried about, because they don't want the stigma. They want in all phases of the service development and service provision, they want to be involved. Include a peer mentorship program that clients who come in get paired with other youth who are doing well and who can help them build healthy lifestyle habits. Peer group. Another thing that really came up was the navigator, that they feel lost finding what services they need. So the youth worker or professional, counselor, social worker, nurse is going to walk through step by step what services best are for them, and then hand off. Like, here, I know who that person is. Let me call, make the appointment, make it really personal, so it's not so cold. Referrals aren't cold, and they don't take like 3 months, kind of thing. Connections between services was huge. That's why we really feel it's important to have the health center. They were really into the design of the building. Like, they wanted to paint, they wanted to go to thrift stores for furniture, they wanted to do the art, they really wanted to be involved in the aesthetics, the feel of the vibe, the atmosphere. They really wanted to be a part of that. And holistic health. We went in kind of being like health, as in like medical health, like having clinics for youth at the center, but they really came back with, no, for me, health is my social relationships. It's how I'm feeling emotionally. It's going on at home with my parents. It's going on at school. It's not about school and I need a tutor. I don't know where to go for education. It's being able to fitness and have nutrition and know what good nutrition is and have a place to work out where they don't feel judged. And art stuff. The key thing was sexual health. For them, it wasn't just like STD prevention and contraceptive and condoms and PAPs and that kind of thing. It was actually psychoeducation of consent, sexual consent. This came both the male and the female youth participants. They want workshops on sexual consent and positive relationship boundaries. Really interesting. LGBTQ+, huge, constantly came up. Really want people's sexual diversity perspective. They want community belongingness. They want a place that they can go that's safe, where they feel connected to their community and they can look into services and look into ways to improve themselves and be with their friends and community involvement, volunteering, whatever. They want that place and they don't feel that they have it right now. Okay, so we're going to get you guys to do a little activity. Does everyone have a paper? I've got some paper. Anyone see? Some pencil? Maybe you can all get some.
Yeah. So for those of you online too, if you just have a minute to grab a piece of paper, we just want you to reflect on your own experience of community health services. So what would you want and how would you want it delivered? What would improve engagement with and expansive services? What would you hope for the youth in relation to community and holistic health? So the first two questions are more about you, and the last one's more about what you think for the youth. So a youth-specific holistic health center, you can brainstorm it. What would it look like? We're just gonna let
those in the audience and on the webinar share those thoughts. They're deeper found. We're like 60 seconds to answer them. You want to kind of share?
What does your health center look like? Yeah. Lean.
Lean, totally paperless and electronic. Very integrated into the lives and personalities and innovative. Yeah, those are very summarized words that reflects a lot of work actually. For example, yeah, and it's not only the technology itself, because sometimes you use technology in a very painful way. Like you can fill up an online application that's gonna take almost 2 to 3 years. And I just put up an application that I couldn't print out. I spent almost like 5 days to do that. Anyway. Most of our applications that repetition that we can simply autofill, like for example. Exactly. Like I don't feel like giving a youth guy or their painful time when they are cries asking about their previous residential history. Right? I think that's gonna make him collapse actually. So this is what I mean by being lean, electronic. I mean, like very accessible. I don't need, most of the US people don't have laptops in many occasions, right? And but I don't want them to spend to fill out the applications. Just the necessary added value to start a service. Then you could, which I mean, like the electronic application should be implemented within the service mapping, right, in a smart, innovative way. I don't need to make it very boring for somebody who's 12 or like 15 years old. I don't want to make it like very boring. Most likely, I find they would love that other thing on the computer, like go from a step to another, and they can choose instead of it, right? That makes things more easy on them. And again, like overall, it should be innovative. Yeah.
Thank you. Want to share? Did they share? And what did it look like? Okay, around the building. Anything else?
The image that really came to my head was, I mean, from everything you said, these youth have great ideas about what they want and need, and I think to get them physically involved in creating it is a really important thing, so that they feel they have created it. That would, I don't know exactly how that would look, but give them a paintbrush and a set of coveralls. But, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll share with you these sketches that the youth did do. Okay, here in the picture, aesthetics, artsy and casual homey. You can see that they've got with communal hangout zone, fireplace, pictures, usual fire, more space and outdoor space. They really wanted like that gardening, that kind of thing. Team up. And then the nature-based programs outdoors. That's neat. Zone. Movie night, theme night. And you'll notice here that there's stairs. These are branches for privacy. They thought that all clinics should be held upstairs. They should be like kitchen, group rooms, hangout, kind of like main level, really homey style. But then there should be branches and wings for services. So you could go to your counselor, you could go to your doctor, you could go to your sexual health nurse, you could go to the gym, and you could go to the art studio. But they were different from each other. That would be to protect anonymity, which is really important to them. Also, this third year here, really about having basic necessities. Again, they care about other youth. They were thinking about homeless youth, and they were like, we want showers there, we want lockers there, we want deodorant, toothpaste, basic hygiene stuff. They were clothing donations, and that would be in the downstairs basement area where any youth in need could access those items. Community coming up, they wanted bohemian. They really, the key thing was non-institutional, homey. Like medical services, they still want it to feel personal. Food is kitchen. Food was always popular with youth. You want to get youth to come to any program, any service, have youth food there. We discovered youth want with that, and they want to be a part of building it, which was real. The investment is there, and they want to. All youth want to be. And they do what they want. They've got counseling services, peer support, in the individual spaces, you'll see places for kids who are going to practice, fitness, and create like, for them, health, what, both. It's not just mental health workers who are dealing with illness and kind of stuff. It's about purpose and living a healthy lifestyle and making healthy lifestyle choices and having opportunity to make those choices in community. There is libraries, so having computers, writing help, knowledge about scholarships, knowledge about schools, that kind of stuff. And we'll go into some other themes, some overall themes that came up in the work that we did with while we were painting and chatting. This is called the Aquarium, and it's about inclusion and diversity, acceptance. Stigma was the biggest barrier for them accessing. They need to feel that it's not going to get judged by their peers or their parents for accessing health services.
And before you want to remember something about this one, that each of the youth specifically designated where they wanted their painting to go in the youth health hub. And so this one, because it is an aquarium kind of picture, they wanted it placed in the health center above the aquarium.
Okay. Welcome to all youth.
They had all very specific places and if they wanted their paintings to be hung. With the goal, when does our youth health center here or youth health hub, that we will be able to hang their paintings.
It's called Open a New Door. You can't really see it in this slide, but you can over here. It's about a lot of people think that there are opportunities for them, that they're kind of stuck in their the same life cycle of their parents, or they'll never get out of the situation that they're in. So having staff who are open-minded and who can provide them opportunities for development was really key. Development was really discovering the power to determine their own life path. Which start a trajectory. I mentioned whole self-holistic health that keeps coming up with these youth. And then to the 4, youth and social justice, they are conscientious of social issues. They care about homelessness, and they don't respect people no matter where they sit on the spectrum, whatever culture they're coming from. They be community partners. We talked about feeling judged and on the outside of society. They go into the store and someone watches a little bit closely, thinking they're steal, or if they go into a restaurant, someone's like, are they going to dine and dash? They have this perception that they are perceived by society as deviant. So I think that's why they kind of ally with other youth to feel, or so about stigma, to feel it. Case study. I don't know if I can purchase that, but that's okay. I'll just talk to it. Youth in my art group, a couple of them actually, had about their experience about suicide and being admitted to oneself. And it's a good story. It was sort of like a traumatic story. I came to ER, they waited for cars in a cold chair. Someone just kind of walked by and checked on them. They're in shambles and, contemplating suicide, wanting to end their life because they're feeling so hopeless and so alone. And then getting a cold shoulder, feeling coldness when they seek help. When they dig it into oneself because there's not enough beds for youth and there's a safety issue, they just slept on a cot in the hallway. Again, people just walking by, just dehumanized. And that was the institutional feel. And the follow-up, it was kind of just like a discharge, and then there was no connection to community support. So there was, again, a relapse of suicide ideation for that youth. A bonding study, too, our youth health hub, for youth also shared about the same sort of experience, that they wanted community support before their issue built into a crisis, and they would follow up once they left the psychiatric facility. You think of that?
Sometimes they're discharged and they're asked to follow up with a family doctor, and they don't often have a family doctor. They end up at a walk-in clinic, and then they are dealing with someone that doesn't know who they are, their background. And so they want to build that relationship with their primary care provider, and for them to know them, and for them to have to go to these walk-in clinics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're seeking community inclusion, and when they go to those places where they see a professional for maybe 5 minutes and never see them again, they don't feel like they're cared for, they don't feel important. they feel dehumanized. The importance of follow-up support, service navigation, and continuum of care. That really came up for me a lot, and that's an area I'd like to continue to work in to bring in services there, because I see it as a huge need for our youth who like it.
Linking to the Kamloops and BC context. So typically, localized community art-based research for youth in planning and service really provide us the voice of youth, but from a different perspective, from an art perspective. As they say in the research area, knowledge translation with being able to showcase their artwork and be able to talk about it to highlight voice. And really just trying to inquire in and promote more community health service development for BC. So Kamloops really needs to have, as I'll say again in a minute, a youth health hub here, and really promoting that here in Kamloops. Yeah, which is down there.
Kamloops. Literature review. I looked at the 2013 Adolescent Health Survey. There's a new one coming out. This information will be updated really quickly. But when I did look into it, I found that youth are making better decisions as opposed to previous generations in relation to sexual behavior, substance use, mental health, and violence are still a key issue, and there has been an increase of homelessness. It's really interesting because this is what youth are asking for. The protective factors are connectedness, positive relationships, caring adults with the family, someone to turn to for help, positive peer relationships, Christian, feeling engaged and valued, their aspirations, a stable home, 9 or more hours of sleep, safety, community connectedness, and cultural connectedness. Connectedness keeps coming up. They need to be included. The people reaching out to them, they think they're important, they want to work with them, they care about them genuinely, and they see them for their whole self. In Kamloops Youth, I looked into the Away Home study that was done by Government Parliament. In 2016, there were 100 youth in Kamloops who experienced homelessness. So that's 100 youth who lived on the street in Kamloops. Reasons for loss of housing were substance abuse, conflict, eviction, physical abuse. It is meant that local community mental health and outreach services improve youth engagement and experiences in order to create safe spaces and foster community and connectedness. That recommendation, and we make the same recommendation. Safe community connectedness. Service Kamloops. I kind of left this here for you just to kind of talk about the youth hub, or you want to talk about it here or later?
The working group continues, even though that we didn't get funding for the Youth Health Hub. It continues to meet. We continue every month to talk about how we can move forward with obtaining funding, doing fundraising, another call out for proposals for the foundry. Like this, we're still moving ahead with trying to implement some kind of a youth health hub, and whether or not we just start small and start something for youth and then start to build on it and make it grow. It's kind of what we're talking about.
The hope is that this information that youth have provided us will be implemented in future service delivery in Kamloops directly. Yeah, we recommend they have one-stop central place to meet their health and social needs to consider as their unique experience of the young person. So, yeah, I'm going to continue to pair with Bonnie and the youth Youth Hub Working Collaborative because I believe in the work and I'd like to see them done about it. Like I said, the whole point about research is so that we can say to people what issue is important and get the resources and funding to make it happen. And be informed when we go about doing it, that we're doing it correctly and ethically on people who are the stakeholders involved.
And I plan to continue with the working group. And I'm also starting to branch out and look at rural youth and look at some of their issues and how we can best serve them. Because a lot of these foundry centers are in urban areas. And what rural service agencies say is that they need some kind of a place like that in their city. So that's where we'll be going as well.
These projects are expensive, right? And rural communities don't have that funding. So it's kind of how can you make it work with what you've got so that you are improving services for youth and engaging them in services.
We have questions for you. So we'll turn over now. Just something to think about. You can pick a question or you might have already in mind. But how will you view youth differently now? If you will youth, how will you work with youth differently? And if you live outside of Kamloops, what have you noticed with youth services in your community? So there's one at a foundry center in Kelowna and one in Continuum. So we're really interested if there's anybody online who has experience with one of these centers in Kelowna or Penticton to please talk about your experience. And does anybody have any experience conducting arts-based research with youth or with youth participants in a research study? If there's any challenges or anything you kind of want to communicate around recruiting youth, which was one of the things we wanted to emphasize was that when you're recruiting youth, you have that established relationship with them. We could go in blank, just to try to recruit youth, but we were unsuccessful. So
putting up posters and like going to youth groups, night lives, talk about it, none of them followed up with me, whereas all of the participants I worked with I had a previous relationship with. They knew who I was and they felt comfortable talking to me, which is a key thing.
Now for questions.
This is, I don't know if I'm cutting off somebody's question, but this is Kim. I would say how wonderful it is to see that this work is being done and being I with the beginning of the presentation with the connection, because I'm quite connected to this as well. My youth was questionable for my choices at times. And I think building that connection, I think you're absolutely right, that building that connection would be imperative to be able to start that conversation and for the youth to feel comfortable. So I'm grateful to see this is in the works, and thank you for sharing it with us today. Not really a question per se, more of a statement.
Happy having a positive feedback.
Is it Mike, who's from Conscientiousness, to use this there?
In-person audience, anyone kind of have any thoughts on the question? Work with you? No. Okay, this is definitely must have had an impact somehow on the way you view youth. So let's hear that.
Yeah, no. I'd say this is, I'm not yet, like I'm a bit of background reading their applications, so I can speak to that. It's a wonderful work. Like you were going through all this, and I could see there's this very emotionally attached work as well. So it changes audience perspective as well, as you just mentioned. Like it has an impact at a further reading. Yeah, I know. But really, when you asked that question, so what my thoughts are, I just want to share. Like services available in the north that the space is very important, as you said. This is my take-home message from your presentation. And youth should be able to access services very in a positive environment. I think it speaks to what you were saying, like very new kind of assistance should be there. And I think another important thing that I just from your presentation is really like school. School is important, the place I think where it should all begin. I think as other words, sexual consent and all this kind of things. I think this was some other role that they were saying that this is very important. This is not hard. I don't know what the exact situation is. But these are some of the things which changes your perspective and with all this kind of homelessness and youth and struggle and and I really hope this is how which you are trying to bring to Kamloops. It will raise our again. If there is somebody listening, it just really think about it, how to find it. Thank you.
Else, want to say something? This makes reading visual art in research. Where you can it. Especially good because they don't like direct questions. The activity that you're all working on together, it feels less stressful for them and it's more casual. They're more free flowing with ideas. They joke around, open up a lot more. So having an activity instead of just questions is your response for you. Yeah, well, thanks for coming and attending and participating. Yeah, you. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you to Bonnie and Shannon for your wonderful and connected presentation. Thank you everybody for joining in the rooms and also online. And we'll be recording and posting this presentation later on in the week on our external page. So thank you again and have a wonderful day. I hope you get to enjoy the rest of IH Research Week. Take care. Bye-bye.